Hey folks, Kurt here. Happy Friday. Can't believe it. First Friday of the new year. And we're here at the office doing some stuff. I'm working on a year-end report. And what this year-end report is helping me to do is you guys have heard me talk before. If you've seen me before, hey, it's great to see you again. If you haven't seen me before, hit me with a comment. Let me know who you are, where you're from, all those things. Even if you're seeing the replay, hit it up and I'll get the notification and we can connect. But this report that I'm working on, it gives me the ability to kind of say, okay, what are the priorities, right? I've got these multiple verticals in my business. I do power sports training, marine training. I work in the WordPress space. I coach people. I do some public speaking. And so it's like, okay, if you've got all of these, balls in the air, how do you focus your time? How do you be productive and efficient and all those kinds of things. So I'm working on this annual report to try and look at things that, in 2024 were good things, distractions, things to double down on, like strengths or weaknesses to delegate to other people on the team, all these kinds of things. And it's kind of ironic. I mean, the timing is really something to consider in what's happened here, because as I am doing this report, I am being driven by a sense of, well, what is my purpose? If you're an introspective type person, or some people say maybe you're an empath, right? An empath thinking about other people, maybe your purpose is to think of others. It's, did you already pass your purpose? I always used to think about this. I used to be friends with a guy named Aaron who played on the Denver Broncos when I lived in Denver. And I loved Aaron. Aaron was a beautiful human being. I mean, he was a really attractive man. He was light-skinned, had the strawberry face. If everyone knows what strawberry face is, he had that wonderful smile. I met him because I worked at a liquor store, and he was a wine salesman. So here I met this really nice guy who was a wine salesman. But as I got to know him, I found out that he used to play on the Denver Broncos. I always used to wonder, what is it like in life when you've already hit your purpose and then life continues? Think about someone that goes to the Olympics and wins the gold. I always thought, what's it like to win the gold and then have to live the rest of your life? What's it like to, and then have to, right? And there was always this kind of thinking. Well, when I grew up, I was really into motorcycles, and I started racing motorcycles when I was 19. And I wasn't some fast international MotoGP guy. I'm not going to tell you great stories about how wonderful of a racer I was, but I was very much into motorcycling, very much into power sports. I worked at motorcycle dealerships. I ran service departments. I ran parts departments. I did everything I could to be around motorcycles. And then eventually, through the course of life, I ended up becoming the North American training manager for Ducati North America. And it was such a blessing of a job for me. Imagine you're into something. Doesn't matter what you're into. Imagine you're into something. And then all of a sudden, the number one, highest recognized brand in whatever that is says, hey, man, we got a space for you. So when I was the trainer for Ducati North America, I completely embraced it. I mean, completely embraced it. They sent me to Italy, Spain, Canada. I traveled through Germany. I was in France. I got to travel and see things and do things. I was at Valencia Speedway introducing the Ducati 1299 when that model came out. I was in Cannes, France when the X-Diavel came out. And introducing those brands and the service techniques to the people at the dealership level nationally was such a really cool thing. I got a Facebook notification last night. This is why I'm saying the timing is so ironic. So I'm working on this annual report. I'm trying to analyze my strengths and weaknesses and things to move forward. And I get this message from somebody. And it says, Kurt, and I'm not going to give you their name. I can say Roy, right? But I'm going to tell you exactly who it is. Kurt, Roy here. I always enjoyed our time together at Duck School, which is Ducati, right? I always enjoyed our time together at Duck School. We've missed your presence and instructional mindset ever since. Hope all is well and a happy new year to you. That's the first message I ever received from that person. I don't know if this I don't know if this is going to resonate with you or not. I haven't worked at Ducati for 9 years. Folks, this happens, I'm going to say almost every holiday. Almost every holiday, somebody from the past reaches up to the future here with me and says, "Oh my God, you were the best trainer we ever had at Ducati. We really miss you." I get calls, "Hey, I'm working on a Ducati 1198 and the timing seems to be off, but I use the tools and it still doesn't seem to run right, but I don't know what's wrong." And I go, "Well, do the cam locking tools have threads or no threads?" And as soon as I ask the question, they go, "Oh my God, that's right. I'm using the wrong tool." Right. And it's just those little things, those little tiny things. It's like that was the sweet spot. That was the sweet spot. For years, I trained dealerships on how to improve their parts and labor sales as a fixed operations trainer. And then the company brought me in as the internal Ducati North American trainer for all of the service departments. And then I started doing the sales training. It was such a sweet spot for me. I love the brand. I love the product. I love the dealerships. I loved adding value to the technicians. Did it pay well? No. But when I started with Ducati, we had an amazing team. We had an amazing team. I was just thinking last night, right after I got that message, there was Austin ran the thing, right? Austin was the head of fixed operations, and then there was Tony Munoz, Jonathan Lafort, myself. We were all in the office. John Bernstein was in charge of customer service. Melanie was there. Oh my goodness, it was just such a perfect fit. It was a purpose. It wasn't a job. It was a fulfillment of a purpose. And then I always wondered, what happens to a life when you hit your purpose, when you hit your sweet spot, and then the rest of life continues? Well, I got to tell you, I never gave up on the power sports training uh, person that I had become. I left Ducati. I went to Suzuki. I became the publication and training manager at Suzuki for about half a decade. And then they had a giant layoff, laid a bunch of people off right before COVID. And so I took my knowledge, my expertise, my purpose, and I put that into a thing called the Power Sport Academy. I thought, well, if I can't depend on these OEMs, I'll build my own training platform. But through the process of building my own training platform, the people at Lifter LMS that make the software for the training platform, they were like, "Hey, you're an expert user. Like, you are a WordPress power user. You might not recognize that you're a WordPress expert. You think you're a training expert, but you're really a WordPress expert, and you're using our tool very efficiently. We would love to have you, add value and train people that buy our product. We'd love to have you help onboard people and get people up to speed with with what Lifter LMS does." Folks, my purpose, I have to reconstruct, I have to reorganize my thinking. Is my purpose to work with Ducati? As much as I love the brand, as much as I'm telling you, it's 9 years since I've had that job. 9 years since I've taught any Ducati technicians anything. And I still get messages from them like that in my messenger, in my LinkedIn direct messaging, in my email. Sometimes I get a phone call, and it can misguide me. It can make me think that my purpose was spent a decade ago. It can make me think that my purpose was being that trainer, was being that person at Ducati. My purpose is related to that, but it's not that specifically. I have to understand that my purpose is to add value to others, motivate and inspire and teach. Like, for me, If I can get a group of people together, share some concepts with them, see the lights come on, and then have them be motivated to execute. That to me is that's a win. That's a purpose. So now I have to figure out, how do I make that purpose make sense? How do I monetize that purpose? How do I make that happen? Um, in the subset to this title, I believe I wrote, because I said, did you already pass your purpose? And then I wrote something about, once we attain a purpose, are we done? Or is it really meant to be an evolution to something better? I'm very prayerful of the idea that even though it seemed like such a perfect fit, even though I love the brand, I love the dealers, I love the techs, I love the team I worked with, even though all of that was in alignment in its day, I have to acknowledge that as good as it felt at the time, that was not a true fulfillment of the purpose. For instance, when I taught Ducati, there was 166 Ducati dealers in the country. Not in the country, in North America, because I was in charge of Canada, United States, and Mexico. I had 166 dealers that I oversaw. As the Power Sport Academy, we have the ability to do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dealers. We have the ability to add that type of value to hundreds of technicians, hundreds of service writers, hundreds of sales managers, hundreds of parts managers. So the purpose is to educate, inspire, and motivate. That's the purpose. And sometimes we confuse the purpose with the vehicle. So, and very ironic that I said vehicle and we're talking about motorcycles. But when I think about what I do with Mañana No Mas as the overall brand, right? Because Mañana No Mas owns the Power Sport Academy. Mañana No Mas owns the Action Leadership Team. Mañana No Mas owns, right? So Mañana No Mas is the umbrella. Mañana No Mas and the team at Mañana No Mas, even though we might be making websites for people, we are consulting and educating business owners on how these tools work or what the inspiration is to make these tools work. So I have to keep going back to, what is the purpose? I honestly believe that my purpose is to add value to people through education and motivation. And then I got to figure out how to monetize that. And so we've got the Power Sport Academy, we've got Mañana No Mas. And if I am really analytical about what we're doing and what the purpose is, I'm able to recognize, even though it felt like emotionally, it feels like my time at Ducati was the pinnacle of that purpose because of these messages. Because you have to understand, Ducati is a very emotional brand. So these technicians that I worked with, these service writers and managers that I've worked with 10, 15 years ago, for the rest of my life, these people are going to pop up, because you make an indelible mark on people when you are working within your purpose. But that purpose doesn't expire because you leave a brand or you leave a job or you leave a company. The purpose always exists. And then we have to figure out, how do we up the ante on this thing? How do we get this thing better? How do we improve our impact? So when I work with the Power Sport Academy, I'm really focused on, relationship and communication and a lot of the soft skills that other people don't even teach. But that's because I want this to be the best experience that it can possibly be. So folks, as we start 2025 and we do things, like annual reports and try to figure out, strengths and weaknesses and what our next goals are, I really want to inspire you. Take a moment, analyze, what is your core purpose? Really drill it down. Like, well, I've been in accounting for 22 years. Okay, but what is it about the accounting? What is your purpose with the accounting? Is it really just tracking numbers? Is it really just doing accounts payable? Is it really just doing accounts receivable? Or is it, hunting down lost revenue for your employer and your team, right? If you go, well, I've been responsible for economic stability for 12 families for 15 years. Like, begin to understand what is the root purpose of what you do. And then it kind of extends and gives you a little bit of grace about the vehicle you choose to exercise that purpose. You know, whenever I am feeling out of step with my purpose professionally, so let's say I launched the Power Sport Academy a couple of years ago and I thought it was going to sell like crazy, and it didn't sell very much. I didn't get to execute on my purpose because I didn't have an influx of students. So I went and volunteered at the church and I worked with college age kids and tried to mentor that younger set into some things that would help them develop their adult livelihoods, right? I was still executing my purpose, even though it didn't drive to revenue, right? Because I was volunteering. That's important. Your purpose doesn't always have to be tied to a paycheck, but personal fulfillment is going to come from exercising your purpose. So I think it's important, if you haven't done this in a long time, or if you've never ever done it, take a moment. Really look at what you do. Really look at what drives you, what lights you up inside, what makes your eyes glimmer, right? Like what makes people, like when you're talking to them, what makes people go, oh, hey, yeah, he's really into that. When that gets identified, that becomes purpose. And then just figure out, how can I exercise this purpose and gain personal fulfillment through exercising that purpose? And generally, that purpose is going to have something to do with adding value to other people in some way. It's neat the way that God works that stuff out, right? Usually, our highest level of fulfillment comes from adding value to somebody else in some way. We just have to figure it out. Folks, that's it. That's Friday. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I didn't schedule that live. The scheduled lives are on Thursdays right now. Thursdays at 10 o'clock Central. Each week, we've got kind of a different theme rolling out. Next week, we're going to be talking about some tech tools on Thursday at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Time, live. If you're seeing me now, you'll see me then. Hope you're having yourself a great day. Finish strong this week and have a great weekend. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.